Good morning. Welcome to 49ers in 5, your daily update on everything happening with the team that you need to know. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. Today is Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. Here's what's happening with your San Francisco 49ers. We'll get to Kyle Shanahan's message to the team in a minute, but first, let's get to the injury report, and it is lengthy. First, we'll start Clelin Ferrell, who left the Rams game. Luckily, he will be able to return at some point in the playoffs. Maybe not this week, but he should be able to return at some point. Taylor Hawkins injured his wrist in the Rams game. He needs surgery. George Kittle missed that game with back spasms. He is, quote, doing much better. Dre Greenlaw has Achilles tendonitis. Kyle said, quote, we'll be smart with him. Eric Armstead will practice this week, and Kyle said he could have played against the Rams if they needed it. That's obviously good news. Christian McCaffrey is going to sit out this week. He'll practice next week with his banged up calf. Juwan Jennings is out of the concussion protocol. That is great news. John Feliciano is day-to-day with his back injury. The team is hopeful that both Jair Brown and Tashawn Gibson will practice this week. Ambry Thomas definitely will practice this week after having surgery on his hand. And George Odom will have his injury window opened. He obviously hurt his bicep earlier in the year. So all in all, not too bad at this point in the season when it comes to injuries. The Niners are a lot healthier, certainly, than they have been maybe in years past. In terms of practices, Kyle said they'll have 2 practices this week, 2 hard practices, 1 in pads, and then the players will have the weekend off. Now, to the audio portion of the show. In terms of how Kyle is preparing the team and the message that he is sending to that locker room, he laid it out pretty clearly.
We earn this time to sit and rest a little bit and try to get ourselves in the best position for next week, but resting doesn't always help you. I mean, you got to be ready, and the way you get ready is you don't just sit around and wait for the moment. You got to work for that moment. So there's a very fine line in all that. There's no magical speech that just truly motivates people. It's trying to make sense that people understand what they need to do to perform. And sometimes when I don't reach guys on in ways like that, hopefully there's a guy who works next to him, who knows them in a different way, who can reach him that way. And that's why we have lots of people in this building who are leaders and really try to help each other, because it never can come from one person. If it comes from one person, you're in trouble.
There should be enough veteran players in that locker room to where Kyle doesn't have to give a rah-rah speech. There's enough guys on this team that were on the team in 2019 that remember what it felt like to come up short in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. So hopefully you don't need any rah-rah speeches. More from Shanahan now. You might be wondering, are the 49ers starting to prepare for their divisional round opponent? Are they scouting the other teams right now, getting ready for that game? Well, the answer is yes, they are. And Kyle went into detail about how they do that.
Every coach has their kind of area of expertise they're responsible for, starting with preparing their positions that they coach, but each guy has a little different area that they do, whether it's red zone, short yardage, goal line, backed up, second and long, third down, and then on defense you got the same thing. They break it into categories, so guys get a head start in their areas on that, and usually coordinators and stuff just look at teams as a whole. But we'll all be dabbling in that for this whole week, and we'll be dealing with our players when they're here in the mornings and helping them just get ready as good as we can, preparing them for our 2 practices, and then all the other time will just be us studying ourselves and us studying the 4 possible people we can play.
You might as well take advantage of the time if you have it, right? And honestly, it probably helps the time go by faster for the coaches. And I got to tell you, for me as a fan, it is dragging by. I love having the bye week, but man, is it hard to get through this week when we've all been waiting for the playoffs for so long. We always give you one thing to read, one thing to watch, and one thing you might have missed. One thing to read on this Wednesday. I just discovered this. I don't actually know how old it is, but if I just discovered it, maybe you haven't seen it either. The Athletic has a really cool interactive draft board. And look, it's never too early for draft season, right? We got a week off. We got the time. It's a really cool draft board, though, because it allows you to go position by position and it ranks all the players. So it's really easy to see very quickly where the draft class is strong and the positions in the class that maybe aren't so good. Good news for the 49ers. Offensive line and defensive back look good. So, yay, maybe you want to go and check that out. One thing to watch. Coaching interviews. We know Steve Wilks is going to interview with the Chargers. Kyle Shanahan indicated there could be more. He's gotten a lot of informal inquiries about Steve Wilks. So far, just the one formal request, but he kind of made it seem like maybe there could be more. One thing you may have missed, the Niners are looking to replace Jason Verrett in their cornerback room. They're working out veteran Casey Hayward. Shanahan said they'd like to add a replacement. Hayward led the league in interceptions in 2016 and has made 2 Pro Bowls in his career. That's a wrap on today's 49ers in 5. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you click the little bell, you'll get notified every single time we go live, which is every weekday here on the Gold Standard Network. Today, I'll be live with Grant Cohn, 9 a.m. Pacific time. We'll get into what the Niners are doing this week, what we should hope for, the injury situations that we talked about, and of course, we'll take your questions and comments all show long. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. We'll talk later today.